All right. So Steve-O has drafted Jameis Winston, number 1 overall, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. John Maloris, you have the Titans at number 2. You are on the clock.
Yeah, you got it. And, with quite a few issues there, in Tennessee with defensive end, tackle, those are both key issues. Same thing with quarterback. Are they going to stick with Zach Mettenberger? I'm not necessarily sure that Marcus Mariota is necessarily the guy, that would fit Ken Whisenhunt's system. And so, knowing that, he hasn't really been able to stick into the pocket that long, and, that they need so many other different things, and you bring in Dick LeBeau, honestly, it's going to be hard not to pick Leonard Williams out of USC. Just to shake it up a little bit, make this draft a little bit more interesting. Sure, certainly. When you think about all the issues, that Tennessee has, at least in terms of scoring offensively, they were 30th in the league last year in points per game at 15.9. In terms of total offense, they're again at the bottom. But you can maybe find some guy to work along. As maybe a project quarterback later on in the draft. They do have the round, the first pick in the second round. So that's something where they might be able to address it there if they really feel that's a need. But, looking at everything that happened in terms of their, defensive line and just knowing the versatility that Williams brings to the table, that was probably one of the more impressive things was just, the ease at which he was capable of just lining up. I mean, he was able to do it from a stand-up position. He was able to do it as an inside defensive tackle. And he was able to do all those things regularly. So knowing that you get him in the right system, I think he can be that 5 technique guy. He can also be a left defensive guy. You can move him all over the place, especially knowing how athletic he is. So, again, to shake it up, maybe they pull off the trade. Maybe they do go with Mariota in the long run. But when it really comes down to it, Leonard Williams, he's the second best player on the board. So that's where I'm going to go, just knowing about what a question mark Marcus Mariota is.
All right. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I mean, I think regardless, Jim Sarantias for thefantasygreek.com, my perspective is that no matter who picks it with the numbers 2 overall pick, whether it be the Titans, if the Browns trade up, the Chargers trade up, who else has been in play for Marcus Mariota?
Eagles.
Eagles, whoever. Marcus Mariota will be off the board with the number 2 pick. I think Ken Whisenhunt, if given his druthers, and he should get his druthers because his neck is always on the line with the Titans team that's been struggling. He wasn't very impressive in his first year, and I can't say that they're sold on Mettenberger. I think Marcus Mariota goes to the Titans.
I think that this is going to be the number 1 pick that's traded because the Titans have so many needs. I think that they can trade down and get value, but that's just me.
Yeah, and just I guess I would say the only thing that I would necessarily kind of defend that pick with it being a defensive player is just knowing how many weaknesses they have right now on defense. I mean, if they do move the pick, obviously Mariota is going number 2. But when it comes down to it, I just think with issues at outside linebacker, defensive end, defensive tackle, right tackle, cornerback. I mean, there's all sorts of problems there where they need to get fixed. And I just think he might be the guy that would kind of ease them in it and honestly just be a better fit long run rather than taking the chance on Mariota.
Right. Okay.
See, I still think that the Chargers is the best trade. I mean, with every day passing day, the Chargers are getting closer to Los Angeles. Phillip Rivers is less and less happy with that idea. Titans are nowhere near contending, and I don't see them wasting Mariota's career on, trying to rebuild the team. I say they take Rivers, get Mettenberger to learn under him for a few years, and that's their quarterback. I mean, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, that would probably make the most sense for both sides. So, all right, Jim, you have the Jaguars with the 3rd pick.
I do, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, since Leonard Williams is off the board, are going to select Dante Fowler, outside linebacker, defensive end for Florida. Basically, I think that it's really close between him and Vic Beasley, but I think Fowler's just the all-around better scheme player ready to go. And this is a Jaguars team that under Gus Bradley, should be able to put together some exotic looks to go on defense. He's athletic. He can play linebacker. He can play defensive end. He plays with aggression. I mean, he's a destroyer. He's a guy that just runs into running backs and destroys them. So that's the guy I'm going with for the Jaguars.
Oh, it doesn't make terrible sense. I mean, they have a lot of needs. That's a team that has a lot of needs as well. And if he's really the edge rusher that everyone says he is, then it totally makes sense. Anybody else disagree with that pick?
No, that's who
I think. Go ahead, John Malloy's here from 87sportsfans, but I just think Fowler is a great fit for Gus Bradley's scheme. To be honest with you, they need that guy. They need that extra boost in the pass rush, and he's absolutely probably the guy that will be able to provide that for him.
Okay. All right, so then that brings up Claire with the Raiders pick, number 4 overall.
This is like a exercise in futility almost, but they did do a lot better last season with, their draft picks, and they actually have a full slate of picks the Raiders do this year, which is an anomaly. And so we're working with a full deck over there in Oakland, kind of, so to speak, and
Not meant to.
yeah, right. I mean, really, the thing is, they played well against the run last year. I was going to go defensive end. You guys took the best prospect. I'm not going to reach for that guy. I'm going to go ahead and pick up a number 1 wide receiver for my brand spanking new quarterback and go ahead and pick Amari Cooper, a wide receiver out of Alabama, to be that number 1 target for our buddy, that quarterback.
Derek Carr needs targets. I mean, it's no secret.
So, I was going to go with, Fowler or Leonard Williams, but okay, we're going wide receiver. I mean, you can't really fault them for doing that when the top 2 targets are off the board.
We shook it all up for you, huh? It's pretty early in the draft.
Good times in Oakland, as always. Woohoo!
Raiders had the second.
That would be their luck, right?
Yeah. Raiders had the second.
Well, it's not like Amari Cooper is a troll or something. He's going to be an amazing player, hopefully at the next level, but, kind of was hoping to get that pass rush under control. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
Raiders had the second worst rated passing offense according to Pro Football Focus. So anything they
there
can
you
do.
go.
So. It's a great pick.
Oh, great pick.
All right, Mr. Franklin with the Redskins, number 5.
Well, you made it a little more difficult for me. Normally I'd go defense here, but since Mariota's still on the board and everything I've read about the Redskins says that, if he falls to them, they're going to take him. So I got to go with number 2 quarterback, Marcus Mariota. I mean, I know that the Redskins just picked up their 2016 option on RG3, but, I mean, how many times are you going to let that experiment fail?
Right.
And, I mean, I think they got rid of Colt McCoy, and you can't really trust I'm blanking on his name, their backup.
Kirk Cousins.
Thank you, Kirk Cousins. And so I got to say Marcus Mariota fits them. They're going to try and keep him from their division rivals. He's a backup if RG3 fails one more time, pretty much.
All right. Steve-O with the Jets. You're up next.
You guys are killing me. I got to move everything around. All right. Well, looking at the Jets roster, they definitely have made some upgrades on offense by picking up Brandon Marshall, of course. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of him, I think getting Ridley is also going to give them a little bit of help. So for me, I think they're going to need to do a little help on defense. So I am going to say they're going to get Bud Dupree, outside linebacker from Kentucky.
Wow.
Because everybody knows what they've done on their secondary, getting Revis back. I just think they need a little bit of help, not necessarily on pass rush as much as just shoring up certain parts of the defense. I think Bud Dupree right now is probably the best player available, especially if you're looking on the defensive side. So I'd say they're going to grab him. I wanted Mariota, damn it. I missed him by a pick.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a little shocked by him going that high. Is anybody else? Maybe I'm in the wrong here.
Yeah, I am. I mean, he's the top-rated defensive end. I would have expected the Jets to go outside linebacker and take Shane Ray.
Not
Their
now.
outside linebackers are, and give me 1 second to get their depth chart in front of me. But then I didn't expect the Redskins to take Marcus Mariota, so what do I know?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so they have Muhammad Wilkerson, they have Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson already along the line with Damon Harrison. I think the Jets are probably fine there, but Quentin Coples and Calvin Pace, while they're good players, they're not the be-all, end-all of this team. And I just think that Shane Ray they're salivating to get him. He's just a phenomenal player. Probably I think he's a little bit more raw than people want to admit. I think they want to coach him up, and at least in the beginning he'll be a situational player, but he can be really destructive in his play, and that's who I like them to take.
Well, and I thought about the whole linebacker thing, and one of the reasons, though, I picked Dupree is he's not the biggest guy for a line. He's 6'4", about 267, 270, somewhere around there. So I think he's somebody that has the speed and the versatility that could play multiple positions on that defense. I could see him being line. I could see him even potentially being a linebacker.
Yeah, he would probably be more of an edge rusher because Wilkerson's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
for the Jets.
I think he's got some versatility. That was one of the big reasons why I'm kind of giving him a look.
All right. Mm-hmm. Lots to think about here. So, and now we get to the Chicago Bears, and now I am on the clock.
If you say Jay Cutler, I'm turning this off.
No. Because Jim and I actually had this conversation. Was it Wednesday night, Jim? We were talking about D tackles.
Yeah, after the show.
And we were watching film of Danny Shelton, and that was up and down. And then we watched a couple other.
I rewatched.
Oh, go ahead.
His film, and I think he's better than what we saw. Just saying, I rewatched that film that we had on him, and I think he's a lot better than looking at it once. You have to look at it a second time. You see he's very good.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's because I see the Bears going one of two ways with this pick right here, as far as the 7th pick in the first round, and that's either a wide receiver, which would only be Amari Cooper or Kevin White, or D tackle. And the question is, which is a bigger need? And if you watched that Bears defense last year, they were just doormats. They couldn't stop anybody. And as bad as they need safeties and middle linebackers and a whole bunch of other things on that defense as well, an athletic nose tackle, especially transitioning to a 3-4 defense, is going to be very, very important because they don't really have it on that roster right now. I don't believe anyway. I don't think Jeremiah Ratliff is the answer there. So I am going to draft. I just blanked on his name. Danny Shelton, the defensive lineman from Washington, to the Bears.
No, I agree. I think if the Bears don't go defense, they're insane. I mean, their defense, they need so much help in so many different areas that it's got to be a top priority.
Don't be surprised if they do go with the wide receiver there, and nobody wants to listen to me, but Alshon Jeffrey is not an ex-receiver, okay? And the 3 games that Marshall was out last year at the end, Jeffrey's numbers and targets and reception percentage dips mightily when he draws the top coverage. So I'm just throwing.
Yeah, but and I agree with you. I mean, Kevin White, I think he's one of my favorites in the draft, especially still available in this draft. But this draft is very wide receiver heavy through multiple rounds.
Agreed.
So to get solid defensive players in that first round, I think is immensely important.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think Brad Biggs, who locally here for the Chicago Tribune has mocked Amari Cooper to the Bears first. I don't know that Amari Cooper makes it there, but even if he does, you pointed out, Keith, you cannot, here, let me pull up the Bears defensive stats. They're horrific. You cannot win football games in the NFL when you are giving up, come on. Sorry.
They were bad.
Oh, it's
Right.
the second worst defense in the league with 27.6 points allowed. 264.4 pass yards per game, third worst in the league, and then ranked number 17 in rush yards at 112.7. You cannot win football games, period. I don't care what the offense is. That's ridiculous.
It hampers your ability to control the clock. It builds confidence to the opposing offense. You're downhill on roller skates if you cannot stop the run in the NFL. All right, the 8th pick in the first round, and then we will take a quick break after this as we reach the quarter point of the draft. Jim, you are on the clock with the Atlanta Falcons.
I am, and I did a first round mock draft, and I'm going with the player that I had mocked to the Falcons, and I think this is going to be the first. I think it's a stunner. I haven't heard anybody talk about this pick for the Falcons. The Falcons select running back Melvin Gordon from Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the reason I went with this is they got no running backs. They got nobody.
Yeah, they even lost Jacquizz Rodgers too.
They lost Jacquizz Rodgers, but here, let's see who they got. They got Devontae Freeman, who's an undersized running back. He didn't prove himself last year when he had ample opportunity to, with Steven Jackson just pulling basically a train behind him. Antone Smith, I don't know that he's the long-term solution of this team. And then they have Jerome Smith and then Ronnie Wingo. You cannot have a team offense without a running back. And Melvin Freeman's the best one on the board. Mm-hmm. Well, best one in a zone running scheme, which is what they're going to be running next year in Atlanta, which is why I took him ahead of Todd Gurley.
And Gurley's coming off the ACL surgery too. You got to be a little leery of that. So high.
Well, but that wasn't the reason. I just decided to stick with here's the nuts and bolts reasons why. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if you look at the Falcons, just their team, you look at their defense, and we know they're going to have to draft defensive players. There's no question about it. But you look at them and you go, they've got players on defense. They're going to at some point not have enough picks, so they're going to have to work with what they have anyway. Take the running back first and just move on. Mm. So,
yeah, I look at the Falcons and in all of their warts, for lack of a better term, and their secondary is a mess. Their run blocking was a mess last year, but there's no interior lineman worthy of a first-round grade. You know what I mean? So, again, right. I agree with you that they don't have anybody in that running back position.
They have no one.
I know. They've got no one.
Zero.
You know me, and I've always said this, that you can put a mediocre back behind a great line and get good production, but they don't even have that, and there's no guarantee that they're going to get that in that draft. So your pick really makes sense, I believe.
Wow, thanks, Keith. I thought I was going to get beat up more for it.
No, I know I went the roundabout way, but I actually did like the pick.
Thanks. And I find it surprising that that Melvin Gordon is not in the conversation for the Falcons. Now, it's possible that they're just not sort of intimating who they're going with, because out of any team out there, the Falcons, I really don't know if there's a player that they particularly like in this draft.
You got the new coaching staff, and so it's a new era in Atlanta.
No, but you know what I mean. No player's really been tied to them. Like you could say, Amari Cooper was tied to the Raiders. You could say, but Danny Shelton was tied to the Bears. You could say Leonard Williams was tied to the Titans. Jameis Winston to the Bucs. I mean, it just Anyway,
yep, I hear you.
I'm taking him.
I hear what you say. Melvin Gordon to the Falcons. So that rounds out the first quarter of the first round mock draft here at 87sportsfans.com and elitesportsradio.com. We're going to take a quick break, catch our breath. I'm sure some people have to rework their notes here as we go on to the next portion of the draft. You're listening to the 2015 87sportsfans.com mock first round on Late Night Sports Radio.
Melting me down to a puddle on the floor. Your lips gave me a hunger Yes, a dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. And I don't wanna be clean. Frantic prayer. Tell me what you feel. Let it out like a forbidden secret. You're dying to reveal. Let it out like a forbidden secret. You're dying to reveal. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. And I don't wanna be clean. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. And I don't wanna be clean. Dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love. You rise up, thousands easy. You've got a dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. And I don't wanna be clean. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. And I don't wanna be clean. Dirty, dirty love. Yes, a dirty, dirty love. Dirty, dirty love.
Baby, you're a mystery. Tell me what's a girl gotta do? Looking at the history doesn't seem to give any clue. Just when I think I understand it all, you seem to unravel some more. Ooh, la, 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 ooh, I never know nobody like you. Ooh, la, 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 ooh, now, now I know. Baby, you're diamond neighbor. Ooh, la, la, ooh, la, 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 oh. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, well, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're unenable. Baby, you're a riddle, I'm caught up in the middle of you. I'm trying to think bigger, but I can't seem to figure it through. I wanna make it better, but now I'm scared of looking a fool. Oh, baby, no, I've never been very good at playing it cool. Just when I think I understand it all, I find I know nothing at all. Ooh, I never know nobody like you. Ooh, la, 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 ooh, now, now I know. Baby, you're diamond neighbor. Ooh, la, la, ooh, la, 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 oh.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
So wide you can't get around it.
So low you can get under it.
So high you can't get over it. Can't get over it.
All right, you're listening to the 87sportsfans.com mock first round. First eight picks off the board. Jameis Winston to the Bucks, Leonard Williams to the Titans, Dante Fowler to the Jaguars, Amari Cooper to the Raiders, Marcus Mariota to the Redskins, then Bud Dupree to the Jets, Danny Shelton to the Bears, and Melvin Gordon, first running back off the board, according to Mr. Sarantius, to the Falcons, which brings us to the New York Football Giants. And Ms. Claire Mullins, you are on the clock.
Yes, that music made me hype. Okay, this guy, it's not a sexy pick, but it kind of is. I mean, if you're into big, humongous guys who can protect your 34-year-old quarterback, yes, we are talking about left tackle out of Iowa, Brandon Sheriff.
All right.
That's my guy. You got a 34-year-old guy, and you're going to bring someone in, or else Ryan Nassib to replace him, or someone else. Your line is not that great, and you got to do something there. And that is actually like the most exciting player, I think, at this position. He's very versatile. He can play all the positions basically on the line, except for center. And he is strong as a house, and he'll kill defenders who try and touch his quarterback, which is awesome and hot, and I love that about a lineman.
I think that's a great pick. That's exactly what I was saying. It was, definitely going for, there's some other reinforcements. Had some other different combinations along the line. But what were you thinking? Was that Jim?
Oh, I was going to ask Claire. People think Scherf is more of a guard than a tackle, and just to see if you agree. Even though right tackle, I don't think anybody would have a problem. It sounds like left tackle that a lot of people don't think that he projects to that position. But I hear you.
Right.
He can play all the positions, just whether you would want him to. But I think it's a great pick. Great.
Well, Will Beatty played well for the Giants at left tackle. If they're going to take a tackle, it's to replace Justin Pugh at right tackle.
Yes.
So there's that.
Why not start him out over there? Maybe he's flexible in the future, and he's the kind of guy that can shore up that line for years to come.
And honestly, we got to think about how old these guys are getting. How many years does Eli really have left? Do you think? 6,
He's
7?
34, and he takes more hits than,
Yeah, he's gotten beaten up the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Mr. Maloris on the clock with the Rams with the 10th pick.
Yeah, you got it. And, it's even though it is a relatively deep draft in terms of kind of finding some guys a little bit later on, some of the other rounds that can still make a difference on offense in terms of catching the ball. You got to go with Kevin White here. He's the number 2 receiver that was left, and just knowing that they can't really fill the number 1 receiving hole with Kenny Britt or Stedman Bailey. These are all things that were kind of missing, from their offense for quite a significant time. I mean, they were 32nd in the league last year with they averaged 212.5 yards per game. And knowing that they still do have some other issues they need to work through offensively. Just knowing everything, that Kevin White is able to bring to the team in terms of, he's a little bit more of a physical guy. You can line him up in a couple of different spots. He's a really unique skill to be able to track the ball down the middle of the field, which is going to be key for them. And so, when you add all those different things into the fact that, they're going to find out a way to use Nick Foles, out in St. Louis. And so I think you add another weapon to this. He does have some things that he's able to, that they have to work through, at least in terms of, some holding calls, that they kind of stand out a little bit. And also, sometimes he tends to, kind of give a tell a little bit right off the line as to which kind of route he's running. That's something that I think they'll be able to work on. And so, when you look at Kevin White, it's number 10 pick for St. Louis. I think that's probably the best fit for them.
Okay. What does anybody else think? I like that pick.
What were you going to say, Keith?
I was going to say, I like that pick because, Nick Foles was great with Deshaun Jackson, and then last year without Deshaun Jackson before he got hurt, it was god awful. So he needs that kind of target. I don't know if Kevin White is really that level of a target yet, but he seems to be, according to everybody.
Right.
I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I mean, the other thing is kind of, you look at, some of the other issues that they have. Obviously, right guard and center is going to be a big problem because, you really don't want to have anybody, that's, kind of underexperienced there at center. So they're going to have to find, something that's going to work out for them and to shore up, that center spot at some point during the draft here to kind of fix the offensive line. But, Scott Wells played poorly last year. They ended up releasing him. And then, you have Tim Barnes, an outside free agent. I just don't think that, that's really going to work out for them. But, in terms of getting some playmakers around them and some weapons for Foles, I think that's probably their best bet.
Great pick. I think it was solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard an interview with him today, and the one thing I took away from it is he sounds like a very confident, very intelligent, well-centered young player. And without even skipping a beat, when he was asked who he most compares himself to, he said Larry Fitzgerald. So just hearing that and just watching what he's done, I think this is a fantastic pick.
Yeah, and occasionally he can kind of, drift a little bit in games, where there were a couple times where, he did end up coming up with, a big fumble in a key game. But, that's all stuff that I think, he'll eventually be able to work out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Steve-O, on the clock with the Vikings.
All right, I was going to pick Brandon Scherf. Thank you, Claire. So I am going to have to go to...
Boo.
Yeah, thank you. My number two, I just think the Vikings, they took a good chance, I believe, by getting Wallace in free agency. It's going to help, add an extra weapon to Bridgewater, but I think they have to do everything they can to protect him. So I'm going to go Andrus Peat, offensive tackle from Stanford.
All right.
That's not a bad time to address. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I like it. I mean, I think the best quarterback to watch this year is going to be Teddy Bridgewater. And he's still going to make some mistakes, but anything you can do to give him more time, I think is a good pick.
Yeah, and I think at some point, they're probably going to address running back and knowing how deep it is. That's something, I think they'll be able to fix down the line. But, releasing offensive guard Charlie Johnson, they did sign offensive lineman Joe Berger. But, when it really comes down to it, when you look at, what their line's been able to do and what their offense in general, it's been pretty lackluster. So, that's definitely, a good idea. Shore it up, make him feel a little bit more comfortable, and, just find a good combination that works there.
I think it's a good pick. The only question is, Vikings have Matt Khalil, and while he did have a terrible season last year, the reality is they have him, and then they have Phil Lodeholt on the right side. So, I like the pick. I just don't know that they don't go in a different direction.
Yeah. I mean, from week 13 on, Teddy Bridgewater had the second highest quarterback rating in the NFL, if you think about that. Only Tony Romo had a higher quarterback rating than Teddy Bridgewater. So keeping him upright is a what's the word I'm looking for? Priority. And pass blocking was something they did not do particularly well. So, Jim, I see your angle, but I don't think that's a terrible pick there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more they can keep him in the pocket, the better. And not that he's not very confident scrambling and getting outside the pocket, but I think the more they can keep him in there and get him comfortable, the better it'll just be for him.
Yeah. Jim, I didn't mean to say that you were saying it was terrible. I was just throwing out another perspective. Okay.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Jim's all mad now.
Look what you did, Keith.
I did. I ticked off Jim. I'm sorry.
I'm taking my draft board and going home.
Oh my God!
He's up next, so he's gonna wait till I make my pick, and then he's just gonna hang up. I'll be like, Jim, you're on the clock. Jim, hello. All right, so I'm on the clock now with the Browns pick. Their first of their 2 picks in the first round. You look at the Browns, the what I call the mess that is the Browns. With them taking Johnny Manziel and then jettisoning Brian Hoyer, who didn't play all that well, but it was kind of like trying to, what's my favorite metaphor? Trying to pick which puddle of vomit to lick. But they still need a quarterback. But with Mariota and Winston off the board, do you go with the 12th pick for like a Brett Hundley or somebody? I don't think so. I don't even think you even touch those guys in any part of the first round at all. So you look elsewhere, and while there's questions at wide receiver, running back, they have questions in a little bit in their tiny bit in their linebacker defensive line. The question to me is, do you believe that it's important to go wide receiver or running back at this pick? And I think there's more wide receivers, like we talked about with the Bears pick. So I say that the Browns go with running back Todd Gurley here.
God bless it.
From
Okay,
Georgia.
fine.
Did you just say Todd Gurley?
I did.
They do have 2 running backs already.
Yeah, but they're not any good.
Oh, jeez.
I'm not convinced that those 2 guys are the answers. Isaiah Crowell and what was the other one? I'm saying,
Not
and this
Ben
is the Browns we're talking about.
Say not Ben Tate. Ben, I couldn't
Not Ben Tate.
Right. Claire is no fan of Ben Tate.
No.
All right, Jim, you're on the clock with the Saints. Stunned silence at my
Wait a
Gurley
minute.
pick.
Wait a minute. You gotta let us.
You so fast, Keith moved on from that pick.
That's right. Go ahead.
It was Terrence West, by the way.
Yes, thank you. That was it. Go ahead. Jim, who would you have taken with this pick?
Oh, wide receiver.
Oh, yes.
Or no, actually I would not. For the Browns, for this pick, I would take a defensive tackle. They were just awful in rush defense. Terrible. One of the worst teams ever.
Ever? I don't know about that, but they were.
Well, last season ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a major issue for them. I mean, right in the middle of their defense, they need somebody that's going to be able to stick there in that 3-4 defense, for a while. Honestly, when you look at Danny Shelton out of Washington, that's probably
He's gone.
That's who I would say is their best fit there.
He's gone to the Bears. At this
I went to the Bears. All right, well, that's a bad pick.
Oh my God!
Keith,
this
you're
is
just-
fantastic.
You knew it was bound to happen. It just had to be me. That's all.
Yeah, right. That's all right. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Believe it or not.
If Shelton slides, he'll either go there or Malcolm Brown, Eddie Goldman. Those are 2 other options.
Yeah, I could see them either going with the I could see them going with a nose tackle here, but I chose Gurley, so there it is.
There.
All right. Well,
part of this is the fact that it's the Browns. All right, and they don't usually make the most sense on draft day.
Yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't be shocked if they give up their 2 first-round picks for the second pick.
Right.
But you're their general manager today. You get to make a difference in this franchise today.
I'm trying
now.
I'm trying to predict what they would do in this scenario.
Oh, see, I'm making the best call for the team.
You're just trying to audition for a job.
Oh, damn right.
We should all be so lucky.
Right. Speaking of that, Jim, you're on the clock with the Saints.
All right. Well, this guy has fallen in the draft a little bit. I think he'll fit this team well. The Saints are a team that need an outside pass rusher, and they select Vic Beasley out of Clemson.
God, everything's grounded. I hate you guys.
Everybody's grounded. That's fantastic.
Everybody's what?
Grounded.
Grounded.
What does
You're
that
in
mean?
trouble. You're in trouble. Go to
I'm
timeout.
sorry, Claire.
Congratulations,
Oh.
Saints and Cleveland and everybody on getting all the great players the Dolphins were going to take. Congrats.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail everything. Please continue. My bad.
No.
No. I mean, he's a player that could play both defensive end, outside linebacker, pressure the quarterback. The Saints were number 25 in pass defense last season and number 29 in rush defense. They had a meager, and I'm talking about meager, 34 sacks, number 25 in the league. So, since Vic Beasley's still there, he's the man.
Junior Gillette played well last year, though, for them.
I don't care.
Okay.
It doesn't make a difference.
There it is.
If he played so well, why did they have 34 sacks? That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
There's 10 other guys on the field, too, Jim.
Just telling you, Junior Gillette's not all he's cut out to be at 34 sacks.
This is good. This is good. And Claire, this is payback for that Johnny Manziel pick last year, just for the record.
Well, darn it! If he went in the right place, you never know what might have been.
You
never know.
Screwed up the whole damn draft last year. At the first pick.
That was so
By the
awesome,
way-
too. I had to go with my gut, you guys.
I understand. Jim, what were you saying, by the way?
Nothing. It's nothing.
Okay.
You got a dog on the Johnny Manziel pick. That's fine. Continue.
Nope.
No. All right. Claire, you're on the clock for your third and fourth choice for the Dolphins pick here.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm kind of going down my board, and I am on the fly doing this one, but I think we can make a good fit here with in the secondary with cornerback Trey Waynes from Michigan State, cornerback, and you can't really have too many cornerbacks. You can't have a strong enough secondary with the passing offenses that you're going to face in the AFC East. And so the big, bad AFC East, I'm just kidding. But Trey Waynes, he could be a great playmaker. He could create his own island, and he could really solidify that secondary. So he's the best player available. I think he's a decent fit for what they do on defense on Trey Waynes.
Yeah, and I think Miami's going to be one of the teams that's really going to need to focus and kind of hunker down when it comes down to the draft, just knowing that they already have so much, invested in Ndamukong Suh that they do need to find something else. They ended up adding, the cornerback, Bryce McCann, to a 2-year deal, but when they ended up releasing Cortland Finnegan, same thing with Phil Wheeler and Randy Starks. I mean, it's something that the team needs to work on, and knowing that they allowed 27 touchdown passes last year, that's definitely something that I think Trey Waynes would be a great fit.
Awesome.
He's a solid pick. Solid pick.
They also had big offensive line issues in Miami.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Last year.
Yeah, I originally had Lael Collins going from LSU. I agreed with you, Keith. I think they needed a little help on the O-line.
Yeah. I don't. So, number 15, Mr. Franklin on the clock with the 49ers. Seems like forever since we've heard from you, Ben.
They need a lot of help, but I think they lost too many people on their defense. So I was torn between Eric Armstead and Malcolm Brown, but I think Brown fits their scheme a little bit better. He's a little bit better in the run. He's got a little bit better footwork. He gives a lot more than Armstead. At least he did in the pro days and all the workouts he did for the executives. But so I got to go with Malcolm Brown from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Is he kind of the replacement for Ray McDonald?
He could. Well, I think if they picked Shane Ray, he'd be the replacement in more ways than one. But
wait a minute. Hold on. I got you here.
I think Malcolm Brown will fit the scheme and fill the hole left by him. Yeah.
That's awesome. That was an awesome joke. All right. Anybody else?
Ben, I think that was a great pick. Do you know why I think it was a great pick?
Because that's what you had him going on.
Because
that's who I mocked to them. Exactly. The exact player.
Yay.
Exactly.
Well, great minds think alike.
There we go.
Oh my God! Right now. All right. All right. We are at the halfway mark after this pick. It is the Houston Texans, the hometown team of Ms. Mullins. You are on the clock with your pick.
Okay. This time has been tough because this is the first year in a long time that no one's really sure what the Texans are going to do. And so the easy answer, the most crowd-satisfying answer, seems to be filling the void in the wide receiving core. Yes, you have DeAndre Hopkins, but a bunch of him, you got a bunch of Jags. So My favorite that's available in the wide receiving core that I've really researched a lot, and I know maybe it's a bit of a reach, but I think he's the best fit for what they want to do. I think it's Jalen Strong, wide receiver out of Arizona State. Sticking to it. Sticking to Jalen Strong. Putting my money on Jalen Strong.
Who?
Jalen Strong.
Jalen Strong, Arizona State.
I got it now. Okay.
My guy, Jaelen.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, receivers such a huge position they're going to have to fill with, obviously with the huge loss that they've taken. And so, I mean, that's 85 receptions, that they're missing. And so, it'd be between, I think maybe DeAndre Hopkins, would have been a good fit too. But, I mean, they have plenty of young options there, at that spot. And so, I feel that's a great pick.
It fills a need. I mean, you got to replace the body that was Andre Johnson somehow.
JJ Watt.
Anything's possible.
He can play anything. Well, I mean, it's the first year, and honestly, they have done a really good job solidifying the team, and there are not, honestly, a whole lot of holes to fill. So I think that one's probably the most glaring one, and I want to fill that one, so we're going with that guy.
All right, there you have it, folks. The first half of the first round is complete. We're going to take another break, catch our breath, refill our beverages, and clear the air, because I think Jim needs a little TLC. You're listening to the 87sportsfans.com's mock draft on Late Night Sports Radio.
Maybe I could offer up an answer.
the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
87sportsfans.com's mock NFL first round, the 2015 edition. We are halfway done. So to recap the second section of picks, Brandon Scherf to the Giants, Kevin White to the Rams, Andrus Peat to the Vikings, Todd Gurley to the Browns, Vic Beasley to the Saints, Trey Waynes to the Dolphins, Malcolm Brown to the 49ers, Jalen Strong to the Texans, and that brings myself on the clock with the 19th or the 17th pick, the San Diego
Keith,
Chargers.
can I say something before you give your pick?
You already are, so go ahead.
Can you not ruin a third franchise this evening?
Wow. What was the so?
Go get 'em.
So obviously you're referencing the Todd Gurley pick to Cleveland as one of those franchises. What was the first franchise?
I thought you made two picks already. No, you just
I did.
made the
I
one?
picked Danny Shelton to the Bears, and you agreed with that pick.
Oh, yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Sorry, I think it was that Todd Gurley pick felt like you destroyed two franchises. Go ahead, sorry.
Wow.
Do it, Keith. I dare you. Destroy him.
No, I knew you were all bent out of shape over there when you were like, nope, nothing, never mind. I'm not saying anything. It's like getting in a fight with your wife. What's wrong? Nothing. If I have to tell you, you're not really sorry. Anyway. Anywho. So the San Diego Chargers last year. Going forward, there's a lot of question marks. We talked about with the Titans pick, no one would be surprised if somehow they work out a trade to send Phillip Rivers. They're headed to Los Angeles, and Phillip Rivers doesn't want to be any part of it. But if that trade doesn't happen and they do pick at this spot, well, Phillip Rivers faded mightily down the stretch last year. And you may not know this, but I think he had actually one more interception than Jay Cutler last year. So it's one of those, And
my fantasy team knew that.
What's that?
I said my fantasy team knew that.
See? Raging Rivers. And one of the things that they did particularly horrible at last year was protect Phillip Rivers. Both tackles stunk. King Dunlap and DJ Fluker, who is still young but did not show much. I think that they go tackle at this pick, best player for your need on the board, and they take La'el Collins. Silence. I love the silence. It's like,
That's because you just ruined it for me, man. It was it's a tight spot for Kansas City. And I think that's going to be something that might plays into it a little bit. Just knowing that they're unsettled at cornerback and receiver, but fixing the offensive line is such a priority for Kansas City that I just think La'el Collins ends up he has great value. Where he's going to be. Ends up going in the draft here and could probably play a number of positions for the team, and so. That's why, La'el Collins is a great fit there, so you kind of beat me to it, man.
Good. All right. Jim, what's your take? I'm dying to know.
I think it's a good pick. I have him as a guard, but I think it's a good pick, especially if they can't get a quarterback and they can't get a running back. You're right on point. They'll get their running back next season. Or, I'm sorry, next round. Excuse me.
Yeah. I have their needs as being guard, tackle, nose tackle, outside linebacker, inside linebacker. Not so much a pass rusher, but outside linebacker.
And I'm not sold that the Chargers are moving anywhere, because I still think that the NFL is looking at the situation and going, we just really don't need to get anybody else mad at us right now.
Well,
San Diego, stay put. Yeah. Oakland, stay put. St. Louis, stay put.
It's really a question of whether San Diego wants to pony up money for a stadium. But
yeah. Well, it's a good PR move. You're protecting your quarterback who doesn't really want to be there. So, what, is he just going to turn his back on that sort of altruistic move that you just made on his behalf? I don't know.
Yeah. And Fluker is a little too young to give up on, I think, but he was just really bad last year. So, all right. John Maloris, you're on the clock with the Kansas City Chiefs.
And so kind of looking at where the Chiefs are sitting at the moment, again, there's a variety of things I feel that they could do here, but knowing that, points per game, they were up there at 22.1 points per game. That's 28th in the league. 29th in passing offense. They ended up releasing Donnie Avery, A.J. Jenkins, Anthony Fasano. So, I don't think necessarily Kevin Smith would be a bad option, but, knowing they need a receiver, offensive tackle, and also a center, I think Eric Flowers, prototype, durable guy, started since his freshman year. That's going to be a good fit for them. Just knowing that, he is a little bit versatile, so he can move a little bit, especially, knowing that he has such great feet. So that's going to help him out significantly. And I think, honestly, when it comes to making a tough block, that's going to, that's something that they need there. They need someone strong up front. And, the only thing that, that seems to be kind of one of the downsides about him is, how he seems so mechanical in times. A little bit rigid in terms of when it comes down to pass blocking because of what he does with his elbows, and he's just undisciplined, isn't able to keep his hands off the lineman, for as long as he needs to. So as long as he's able to kind of keep control of that, he's a great run blocker. And when it comes down to the Chiefs, that's something that they need to do is kind of get everything settled up front. And sure, like I said, going for somebody, a playmaker in the passing game might work. But, Macklin, I think he's a pretty good start. And, if you had a guy like Flowers, that's a good fit.
Okay.
Good pick.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
So I was looking at something else. Who exactly did you pick?
I had to pick up Eric Flowers.
Flowers. Okay.
Yeah, so big boy out of Miami, 6'6", 329. Ended up, he probably could end up going in the second round, to be honest. But in terms of what they need and knowing, I kind of have him higher up on my board. That's probably their best fit.
Oh, going tackle. Sticking with the tackle. You were really bad. You were really mad about that Lyle Collins pick, weren't you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I kind of like mixing it up a little bit. If you haven't noticed, that's why I strayed from Mariota to start, just because you got to make it a little bit exciting, right? And look, it screwed clear over right from the start.
Woo-hoo!
Set the tone for the
theme
show.
of the night.
Yeah, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm not a big Andy Reid fan. I'm just not. But a glaring weakness there was their offensive line play. Also struggled against the run on defense. So.
Yeah, I mean, they were just horrible. I mean, on both sides of the ball, at least in terms of, the run and the block, in terms of passing. But Eric Fisher, 2013 number one pick, he's still struggling. You had journeyman Ryan Harris up there. He wasn't much better at right tackle. And Alex Smith, I mean, look how many times he was sacked last year. I mean, that's probably, the most significant thing, is keeping him healthy and allowing him to manage a game for you. And, with that upgrade, I think that's a good fit.
All right. So that puts me on the clock with the 19th overall pick, the Cleveland Browns, a pick they got from the Buffalo Bills, which they acquired when the Bills traded up to get Sammy Watkins last year. And everyone was criticizing my pick of Todd Gurley to the Browns earlier, but best man on the board at that time, and that's where I think we go here. The Browns could, if you look at how they performed last season defensively, there were some ups, some downs, obviously, but one position where they didn't get a lot of production out of was defensive end. And I think with this pick, they go with, and I'm gonna butcher this name, but Owa Adejuzua from UCLA, defensive end.
Are you allowed to pick a guy if you can't say his name?
I'm sorry. I apologize to the guy if he happens to hear this somehow. I apologize because it was bad. It was god awful. But hey, you're going to the Browns, so congratulations.
So congrats.
Yeah.
Good job.
Winner.
You made it.
Wow.
And so, do you think they're going to be able to maximize on these picks? I mean, it's obviously, pretty rare to have multiple picks in the first round, and that being one of the few teams this year that actually do have. I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, are they going to end up sticking? I mean, you made both their picks for them, but Do you think there's any chance they can move any of those? Maybe even turn some more picks? Knowing how many flaws they have, or is this something where they're just gonna stick with what they have and hopefully pick the best guy on the board?
Well, I mean, we're all making fun of it, but it's too early to give up on Johnny Manziel. So I don't think they trade up to try to get a quarterback. They have 2 first-round draft picks. If they can turn that into something to move up and get somebody else, maybe that's higher on their board. Maybe a Melvin Gordon. That's a joke, by the way. I just threw that in there for the running back position. But this was a spot where I would have picked probably Randy Gregory, but he's got some off-the-field issues as well. And I think with the whole Manziel debacle from last year, the Browns would stay away from them.
And you would think, but at the same time, you're like, it's the Browns, they just want to take that risk for whatever reason. I don't know. There's something in their psyche that says, let's fix the troubled young man that we have no idea how to fix.
Yeah. Keith, I think if you're going to address the defensive line in the first round for the Browns, which, by the way, Johnny, they have 10 picks in this draft, which is tied for second most.
Ooh.
So they've got a bunch. They've got a lot of picks to invest in their team. To me, if you're going to invest in the defense in the first round, that's why they should have taken the D tackle with the first pick. But I would have enjoyed, besides a defensive tackle with the first pick, the second one, a wide receiver, if only because I don't trust Josh Gordon anymore. To me, he's on the outs on my team, I don't expect to have him next year. We've got Dwayne Bowe. We might as well get another top receiver and at least give whoever our quarterback's going to be great receiving weapons, and not necessarily for this year, but for next year.
Yeah. I agree. I liked Andrew Hawkins last year, too. I think he'll make some adjustments and step up again this year, too.
All right. Ben, you're on the clock with the Eagles, the painful pick.
This is probably the most difficult one I had, just because I truly, after reading all the Eagles have done this offseason, it doesn't really make any sense to me. So my logical side would say, hey, you have no receivers, but it's Chip Kelly. So I got to say he goes, you just got a brand new shiny running back. You need to shore up your offensive line because you want to copy the best team in the NFC East. So they're going to go Jake Fisher, offensive tackle. One, because he's an Oregon guy, and Chip Kelly has proven that he'll do anything to get Oregon guys. And 2, I mean, he's a proven running tackle. He opens some lanes. He'll get to DeMarco Murray the runs he needs to.
All right.
Nice pick.
Yeah, I think I agree with your assessment, Ben. They're taking an offensive lineman with that pick. And Jake Fisher, certainly there's nothing wrong with the pick at all.
Especially with their current quarterback situation and just durability reasons.
You got one quarterback made of glass, one quarterback who can't throw, and one quarterback who commented today saying that he's glad that Tebow's on the team to back up Sam Bradford.
Yeah. Yeah, they asked Sanchez about it, and he said it was just a camp arm. Oh, boom.
Wow. No bad blood from the past there.
It's gonna be a fun mini camp. So, all right, Steve, you're on the clock with the Bengals.
All right. So with the Bengals, staying away from the offense. I think their offense is still crazy talented. I mean, to me, their biggest offensive issue is if Andy Dalton's going to throw it to the other team or not. I looked at their defense, and I saw a team that, 6th in tackles, tied for 1st in interceptions, but dead last in sacks with only 20 sacks this past season. So I am going Eric Armstead, defensive tackle from Oregon. I've looked at a bunch of the players that are left on the board, and he's described as raw talent, but extremely quick and extremely powerful off the block. So I could see, one of the problems they had last year is getting pressure on the opposing team's quarterback. So I think they just need to shore up that area a little bit more.
All right. Anybody?
I think that's a good pick. I mean, Bengals defense was really good early on. They needed a little help later, and that'll definitely get you some sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's not, I mean, last year he only had 2.5 sacks, but you're looking at a guy that's improved every year in his college career, and even if he can get extra pressure on the quarterback, I think that's just going to go a long way to help Cincinnati. Because like you said, their defense started out great, and then it just kind of weakened as the season went along. So I think they just need a little extra help.
Yeah, I mean, if they find someone that's going to be able to create a little bit more of a pass rush for them, that's really going to free up that secondary. And, it is they do have a pretty good secondary. So, I mean, that's something where, finding the right pass rusher, not only is it going to help them shut down the 16 rushing touchdowns they allowed last year, which was 27th in the NFL, it will, create a better secondary and overall to fix the defense.
All right. So that puts me on the clock with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the 22nd pick overall. The Steelers are interesting in that. Let me call up my screen really quick just to make sure. They're pretty good on the offensive side of the ball, so they can focus their efforts purely on defense. And they had a couple of retirements in the secondary, coupled with last year's poor play. I think that this is a spot picking at number 22 that you can go cornerback or safety in this pick, and it all depends on what you feel is the bigger need. Troy Polamalu has fallen off greatly in the last couple of years, but you don't just plug anybody back there. You need somebody that's capable of being somewhat of a leader and someone who's performed at a high level. And I think that at that 22 spot, they're going to look past cornerback and go with safety Landon Collins from Alabama.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting too. I mean, just kind of looking at, what they've lost, at cornerback, and just find somebody outside of William Gay to contribute. I mean, the guy's 30. Who knows how that's going to work? And if they're able to find, that shutdown guy, that shutdown corner, I think that would be, more than what they're looking for right now, especially considering the fact that they lost Dick LeBeau. So I'm not sure how much of an impact he had, but I think we're about to find out.
Keith, you're going to just fall right out of your chair when I tell you this. I mocked Landon Collins to the Steelers. And I wrote, yes, you could quote me, and I wrote, not much to think about here. Meet Troy Polamalu's replacement.
Oh, my God.
It's a love fest again.
It's like a Nicholas Sparks book. It's unbelievable.
Oh, my God. Really? Did you just go there? He did.
We'll call it the draft.
We
just got to figure out which one of you dies at the end. It's a Sparks book. So.
Yeah. It's just amazing how the Steelers have not addressed that end of their defense over the years effectively. So now with the retirements, they're kind of forced to. And if Collins is still there at 22, which by the looks of things he very well may be, I think, like you said, Jim, not much to think about here. It's a no-brainer.
There's no other team that should be looking at him at this point. Nobody. That's why it seems to me he falls right in their lap.
Yeah. It would be nice to have him, last till the second round. Maybe the Bears could steal him because they haven't had a safety since Mike Brown. But, that's just me.
They'll have some options.
We'll see. Jim, you're on the clock with the Lions.
Oh, it's my pick?
Yep.
No kidding. Wow.
I know, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I didn't realize I had Lions in this one. Huh. Okay. Fair enough. I'm just going to stick with the player that I mocked to the Lions at the time. Let me just find him in my list here. And, the Lions, they don't need to replace Ndamukong Suh, but they just need another complement to that defensive line. And I think they go with Mario Edwards, defensive end, defensive tackle out of Florida State.
Okay.
And if you want to know more about him,
Yeah.
trying to find him here. Oh, there he is. He's sort of a guy that, I don't want to say he's a reach, but he's got a high second round grade. He's just a tremendous athlete. He's 6'2", 279 pounds. Played for Florida State. Former 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He can play across from a guard, outside the tackle. He's a very, very athletic for his size, and just a powerful guy who can just take a player and stand him upright. He's got the ability to just cover a lot of space in a short period of time, or the reverse, a very short period of space in a very quick amount of time. So that's why I liked him taken.
Well, with the vacuous hole that's left by Ndamukong Suh's departure, and yes, they got Haloti Ngata, but he's.
I mean, all their guys on the line, with the exception, well, even Suh. I mean, Suh was just a powerful, stout guy, but what's his name, Ziggy Ansah?
Mm-hmm.
The guy's just a freak.
Yeah.
And I put Mario Edwards not in that same freak level, but sort of just this real athletic guy that at 279 pounds makes him a lot lighter than your typical defensive tackle. But he can still, that's where he belongs. He belongs on that defensive line, and he's just a nice presence for them.
Yeah. They also lost Nick Fairley, too. We forget about it. I know he was hurt.
No, I know.
But
if you're looking between the two players, I mean, between him and Haloti Ngata, I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah. Right.
And I just like him amongst the D tackles, defensive ends, because of his athleticism.
Okay. All right. John Maloris, you are on the clock with the Arizona Cardinals.
Ooh, yeah, and thinking about, what they're going to do with the quarterback position, because, you have Carson Palmer there, Benjamin Stanton, he's there, they both go down, and, things just didn't work out so bad, so great a quarterback, especially knowing that Palmer's 35 now, been in the league almost 11 years. When it really comes down to it, that might not be their biggest concern. Their biggest concern has to be, the departure of Antonio Cromartie. He ends up going to the Jets. They only really have, Jared Powers, opposite of Peterson, really, when it comes down to the deep back. So they're really going to have to figure out what's going on, because Patrick Peterson, he's a great piece, but, having to add someone else to that mix, is going to be the biggest thing for them, because they ended up only having 11 interceptions last year in terms of their pass defense. They were 29th in the league, where they ended up coming up with, they allowed 25.9 or 259.5 yards per game. And, knowing that that's such a huge, aspect of their game, you're going to have to start looking at some of these guys like maybe Marcus Peters. That's going to be my pick for them. 6-foot guy, 197 pounds out of Washington, really smooth guy, at least in terms of, how he operates himself on the field. He does rely maybe a little bit too much on his natural, athleticism, can tend to get a little bit sloppy. But when it really comes down to it, he's a guy where, he covers a lot of ground. He's able to break forward versus a three-step, and is also able to kind of stand on top of the receiver off of the line of scrimmage. Those are some of his biggest attributes. And so when you really look, like I said, at what they're looking to fix, adding a guy like him, even though he does have the off-the-field issues, which are going to be, a big part of where he does go in this draft and whether or not teams feel that they can trust him. But I think, they ended up doing enough research into that, and when it comes down to it, he's their guy.
What's the pick?
Marcus Peters.
Marcus Peters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, out of Washington. A lot of places had him projected as a second-round pick, but just like I said, knowing... Go ahead.
He's a first-round guy. He's a first-round guy.
That kills me.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the off-the-field issues might kind of push him a little bit further back and kind of make things a little bit uneasy about him. But
do you? Look at what they did with Tyrone Matthews last year, or Matthew.
Right.
Anyway, Ben, you were about to say something. Sorry.
I was just saying that just bites me in a hurtful way.
Why? Because you were hoping.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping he fell a little farther.
Not going to be there for the
Yeah,
Cowboys.
4 picks further.
But these are kind of Bruce Arians, you know what I mean? I think they have like kind of, you know, eased some of those concerns for them in that thought, you know what I mean?
I definitely think it's a good pick. I wish you didn't pick it.
He's just jealous. He's got pick envy right now.
Well, thank you.
So, all right. Well, that's the end of the third quarter. We're at the 3-quarter marks. We're heading into fourth quarter, crunch time here on the Mock Draft channel. We're going to take a very short break, just under 4 minutes, and then we will finish things up here. You're listening to the 87sportsfans.com annual NFL Mock Draft on LateNightSportsRadio.com.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at LateNightSportsRadio.com.
87sportsfans.com's 2015 mock NFL draft. Just the first round, kids. Just
I was
the
about to
first
start singing to get the intro going.
round. Yeah, whatever I can do. So the last quarter, Lyle Collins to the Chargers, Eric Flowers to the Chiefs, Owa Adejuzua to the Browns. I butchered that twice. Jake Fisher to the Eagles, Eric Armstead to the Bengals, Landon Collins to the Steelers, Eddie Goldman to the Lions, Marcus Peters to the Cardinals, and TJ Clemmings. Oh, I just gave away my pick because I already typed it in. Oh, my God, that's fantastic.
What was your pick?
Never mind. So, the Carolina Panthers. Now I can start to break them down. After I already told everybody who I was drafting, but Jim didn't catch it, so it's good. The Carolina Panthers. Oh, the Carolina Panthers. A team that no one really knew what much to think of. They entered the season with the usual suspects at running back, and then it turns out that Jonathan Stewart was just waiting 5 years or 6 years or however many years it was to all of a sudden become a bona fide running back in the NFL. But one thing that they did not do very well at all. In fact, they were the worst rated team in the league, and that was at pass blocking. And when you have a star under center like Cam Newton, that is your number one priority. So with the 25th pick, the Carolina Panthers select left tackle TJ Clemmings out of the University of Pittsburgh.
Interesting.
I mean, it's not, necessarily all that surprising knowing that they lost. They ended up re-signing offensive guard Chris Scott, but ended up releasing D'Angelo Williams, Greg Olson. He's going to be around for an extra 3 years, but when it really comes down to, that's something they need to fix somehow. Get Cam into a spot where he's able to, create a little bit more offensively and just find a little bit more security and stability, rather than kind of always working off the fly and on the run. Even though he does, excel at that, obviously. But just find a little bit more stability. Hopefully, kind of open up some holes in the running game. I think that's a good fit.
I don't like the pick only because it's not that they don't need a left tackle, but I think they could get a tackle later on. I think right now, if you're them and the draft board has fallen the way that it's fallen, you draft Devontae Parker and get that complement at the wide receiver position for Kelvin Benjamin, because Benjamin is going to just be covered. They need that second wide receiver desperately. And with Devontae Parker still on the board, I think you just take him and worry about your offensive tackle in the next either second or third round.
All right, I can't fault that logic, but I'm going from the standpoint that you build from the lines out. And so when you can't keep your quarterback upright, then that becomes your priority. And there's tons of wide receivers in this draft.
No, and I get that, but I'm also there's not a guy like Devontae Parker. He should be gone by the end of this round. Somebody's going to sit there and go, "Oh my God, he's fallen. We should go get him." And if not, that's okay. He'll be in the next round, but I don't think he'll make it to the Panthers. I think this is just a situation of it's too good to be true.
Okay.
Yeah, really, there are only two guys in terms of catching the ball are Kelvin Benjamin and Greg Olson. Outside of that, you're looking at Jericho Cotchery again. There's a lot that they could do to fix that position. I think they could add somebody later. When there is someone that high up. Again, that's also a great pick.
All right. Anybody else with comments? I want to make sure I give ample time so Steve doesn't accuse me of moving on too fast.
Oh no, you didn't wait 1 second to be like, "All right, who's next? Let's go."
All right, Johnny Maloris, or no, we have a guest picking for the Baltimore Ravens. Jim, would you like to introduce?
Sure. Fred Goodman is coming in for the Ravens. He's a contributor to the Ravens on the FantasyGreek.com.
Well, good evening, everybody, and greetings from war-torn Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
I was just saying, you're holding up all right out there.
Fortunately, I'm on the outside looking in. But, in any event, getting to the Ravens pick here, obviously they have a lot of needs. A lot of off-season moves with Nada going to Detroit, Torrey Smith joining Bolden out in San Francisco. You would definitely think, and also Owen Daniels, going to Denver. So you would definitely think that the Ravens could be looking at a wide receiver or a tight end in the first round, and they have targeted a few, but they really were looking at Marcus Peters, who in this mock draft just went to Arizona.
Right.
So with Ozzie, it's always, the best athlete available, even though they do have a needed corner. However, they did sign Jimmy Smith to an extension. They've got Ladarius Webb, coming back, taking a pay cut, but questioned around his health. You would think they would take the next cornerback in the draft. But what I feel the Ravens are going to do here, if he's available at this point, and they do take players who have trouble off the gridiron. So with Randy Gregory falling, I don't think the Ravens will take him. However, I think they go with the D-line. They love picking defense in the first round, second round. They had a great production at Mosley and Jernigan last year with the first two picks. So I think I screw up Denver here because I know Denver's looking at Shane Ray, and I think the Ravens go with the Southeastern Conference first-team defensive tackle Shane Ray out of Missouri to replace a departed Pernell McPhee, and adding another rusher on the defensive line. Granted they got Dumerville and Suggs, but I think Shane Ray just adds to the depth of the D-line, and it's something the Ravens like to do here in the first and second rounds.
It's funny because they also have a tendency to welcome convicts to the team.
Correct. And that's why Gregory could have been an option, but I think they'll pass over Gregory if he's available.
All right, Jim, what do you think?
I don't know how they're going to handle the recent news on him and given everything with Ray Rice, but I think in general, the pick is a great pick.
Yeah, you would think maybe they could find somebody a little bit in later rounds. I mean, it was just something where I feel like there was no way you're going to see the Ravens come out of the draft without getting, some kind of pass rush or some kind of outside linebacker. I think it's an excellent fit. And I mean, they've been great for over a decade now in terms of having, really, really good sub-package runners, and losing McPhee. And then, also, having seen Paul Kruger leave as well, that's going to hit them pretty hard. So that's an excellent pick.
I wanted to ask real quick, Fred, in this particular mock draft, we still got Devontae Parker on the board. Why wouldn't they just take a wide receiver? I mean, because it's certainly a hole on their roster. Yeah.
It's a hole, but they also really like some of the young receivers on the team. I think Kamar Aiken, you looked at last year, big body, can go over the middle, had a few good games. Also, Marlon Brown had a down year last year. Didn't get a lot of receptions because of because of Steve Smith and Torrey and everyone else in the lineup. But Marlon Brown could come back and get significant playing time as well. I think they're going to go after a receiver. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they pick up a free agent here, before the mini camps.
All right. Thank you.
And that's gonna be one of the interesting things too. Like, sure, obviously there's a lot of excitement that builds up for the draft, but there's everything that comes after that. Where teams are, again, they're repositioning, figuring out what they have, seeing where they're at cap wise. So there's a lot of cuts, a lot of guys that become free agents, a lot of veteran, casualties. But that's always something fun to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I don't think Crabtree's been signed yet by anybody, has he?
No, not as of yet.
I thought Oakland signed.
The Ravens have definitely been talking about him.
Oh, the Raiders.
The Raiders signed him, guys.
The Raiders got him? Okay. Scratch that one.
Yeah, and then I think honestly too, when Baltimore's looking in terms of a receiver, they need to go for a deep threat guy, rather than, even though, bringing Mark Trestman in there, he likes those big body, physical receivers. I think they need to find a guy that's going to be able to come a little bit closer to replacing Torrey Smith in terms of what he meant to that offense, and that's probably the best way they would go on that route at least.
I'd say another possibility with this first-round pick, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if Ozzie moves down, trades it and moves down, if he doesn't get the player that he wants.
Right.
And you might see him pick up a receiver in the second or third round.
Yeah, and Jim, what you were talking about before with what's his name there, the Devontae Parker, if he's there for the Ravens, I think they might make a play here for that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things that it's hard to in a mock. I mean, you have to keep reminding yourself that people adjust. Now, I would adjust, but some NFL GMs wouldn't adjust because they'd say, this is just our board. We don't care.
Right.
There are certain guys we just want. Where I might sit there and go, well, wait, we didn't think this guy would be there, but he's there now.
Right. You got to do the best player available versus just focusing on your needs.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess the other thing to think about, too, and Jim, you can probably attest to that, with their new offensive coordinator being Mark Trestman, who focuses more on receivers and, so-called running game. Of course, he'd like to have his running back, catch a lot out of the backfield, which I think Forsett, will help them with. But, Trestman may be bending Harbaugh's ear to go after a receiver somewhere in the first couple of rounds.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And do you expect a big change in dynamic, in terms of what they're trying to do offensively and move the ball vertically, like through the air?
Well, it's changing the dynamic. I think they want to try to keep as much of Kubiak's offense in place, but Trestman's going to throw his own 2 cents worth into it. I mean, they have a lot of success in the passing game as it is. I think that, one of the keys is whether Pitta's going to come back healthy. They're looking at tight ends too. And the guy from Minnesota, the top tight end in the draft, is one of the targets as well.
Excellent insight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Ben.
Thanks, Fred.
Ben.
All right. Have a good evening, guys.
All right. Thanks, Fred.
And girls.
Thank you, Fred. Be good.
All right. See you. Bye-bye.
See you. Ben, you're on the clock with the Cowboys pick.
Okay. This pick has probably given me a little more torment than the Eagles pick did, just because the Devontae Parker is still available. In the past, the Cowboys would have gone best available and probably picked him. But looking at their roster, they got Dez, Terrence Williams, and Devin Street. I can't see them going Devontae Parker on that. They need help on defense more than anything, especially cornerback. I mean, really the only player you got that's producing is Orlando Scandrick, followed up with Brandon Carr and Morris Claiborne, who you don't even know if is going to be any sort of a factor this year. So I got to think that with the best available, I think Kevin Johnson, cornerback, he fills the need where they need it. It gives them some depth just in case Morris Claiborne can't go, which all signs have pointed to that he can't. Brandon Carr, he's either boom or bust, and most of the time it's bust. So, I mean, the Cowboys were burnt. I can't remember the exact stat, but they were one of the easiest thrown corners on. And, I mean, you saw the catch. I know he's amazing and he'll do great things, but Odell Beckham Jr. burnt Brandon Carr. And I think that kind of left the sour spot at that position for the rest of the year. So, Kevin Johnson.
Yeah. They ended up giving up almost 252 yards a game through the air, and a big part of that was, not having another guy that was going to be able to go up one-on-one against top receivers. And so finding a guy like Kevin Johnson, I mean, when you look at the cornerbacks that are there, I drafted one earlier with one of the different squads, but maybe he's probably, one of the most NFL-ready cornerbacks right now. I mean, I really don't think he's that far off of being a future starter. And when you look at it, I think they might be able to be the team to develop him into that guy where he could be that top shutdown corner that they're looking for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and they need somebody who is ready, like right now. I mean, they don't have the time to wait. And he's got the speed. He's got pretty good hands. He can run with the big receivers, and he's not as bulky, but he's aggressive. So, he can get bigger and stronger, but he's got the natural football ability to keep up with the top receivers.
Yeah, and I thought maybe they would possibly think like safety in terms of just knowing that they almost have two of the same guys at safety, and J.J. Wilcox and Barry Church. They're both really good against the run in terms of cover. Just haven't been, so great in that. And I think, safety, cornerback, either way, it's still going to help out that secondary, which is the biggest downside right now.
Yeah, and I mean, they solidified their line a little bit. I mean, I know Greg Hardy's still going to be suspended, but they at least have another pass rusher. They have Sean Lee and Rolando McClain in the middle. They got DeMarcus Lawrence, who's going to be healthy all year. The secondary is where they needed the most help on defense.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Collins. Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say this is a great pick. I mean, if the Cowboys can't get a running back in that first round, best available cornerback, I think Kevin Johnson, just a great pick.
Yeah, no, he's.
I mean, Jalen Collins is probably an option there too, but I think he's going to take a little bit more time to develop. You need someone to be able to step in a lot sooner, just knowing that you have so many different, mega receivers in the NFC East.
Exactly.
They, besides Orlando Scandrick, they got nothing in that secondary.
Exactly. And a lot of money tied up in it. So getting somebody in the draft who's going to be kind of cheap is big.
Yep.
All right. Jim, you are on the clock with the Broncos pick.
Okay. With their first pick in this draft, I see them replacing Terrence Knighton and drafting nose tackle Eddie Goldman from Florida State.
Yeah, not a bad idea. I mean, the offensive line, they were pretty good last year. They were top 15 both rushing and passing. But, knowing that you have right tackle, there was constantly guys moving in and out. Chris Clark and Paul Kornick just struggled to fill in for Orlando Franklin when he ended up going down. And just knowing that the new zone blocking scheme underneath Gary Kubiak, he's looking for a guy that's going to be athletic, that's going to be quick, that's going to be a little bit bigger and have some strength. And this is, I think that'll be, a good guy to fit his scheme.
Hang on, are you talking about Eddie Goldman?
Correct.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I had to go with it.
No, here's my thinking behind. Besides just replacing Terrence Knighton, the bottom line is that the Denver Broncos had the second best rush defense in the league, giving up just 79.8 yards per game. If this team wants to sort of keep some sort of a status quo, you've got to get the best available player in that position, and I just don't see the backup in this case, Sylvester Williams, being that guy. So you get a guy like Eddie, you get him in there. He's got a bunch of great skills. He's a bull rusher. He's a big-bodied guy, bunch of good weight at 336 pounds, long arms, strong. He could press the pocket, get up in the face of a quarterback. I mean, he's got some things that he's going to have to work on, as all players sort of, as we move into this draft, are going to have. But he can be coached up, and that's why I think it makes sense. If it's not Eddie Goldman, it'll be the next highest available defensive tackle, nose tackle, which I have is Carl Davis out of Iowa.
All right, Steve, you're on. Yep, Steve, you are on the clock with the Colts. We have 4 picks left in 10 minutes.
This was a really tough one because the Colts have a lot of needs in many areas, offensively and defensively. I was thinking Jalen Collins for a little bit, but I had to go with my first instinct, which was help on offensive line, and I am going to say Cameron Irving, Florida State. He's marked as a center, but in his draft status, he's been said that he can move to multiple positions. And I just think, for Andrew Luck last year was sacked 30 times. This year they're bringing in the NFL equivalent of the Golden Girls with Frank Gore, so they need some serious protection. And I think helping the offensive line should be a priority.
It's exactly who I mocked to the Colts, Steve.
Nice.
Oh.
I was really going back and forth on this one because they do need a lot of help.
Yep.
Hold on, I got to find something for you now, Steve. I'm having trouble queuing this up. Did you really go there about Frank Gore?
Absolutely. Between him and Andre Johnson, it's like we're looking at the early 2000 Yankees. Let's find some former great, really old players and put them on our team.
Oh, dear God. Okay. If this board shook out this way, I could see the Colts going with the wide receiver there, Devontae Parker. Because
I don't think so. I
no more Reggie Wayne. You got to fill that.
Yeah, but Reggie Wayne, I mean, he wasn't really that big a factor last season.
You can't throw every ball to T.Y. Hilton.
No, but you also can't have your quarterback on his butt 30 times a game or 30 times a year.
Wait, Keith, what did you say? You can't throw the ball to T.Y. Hilton?
Not every throw.
Well, Andre Johnson's there. T.Y. Hilton's there. They've got two receiving tight ends. Frank Gore, Dante Moncrief. Did I miss somebody?
Yeah, you got old Andre Johnson.
Well, wait. But here's their offense is built on the perception that there's multiple weapons on the field. You can't cover them all. It's impossible, and all of them can catch a football or run with the football.
Yeah,
they don't.
Andre Johnson as a number 2 is more dangerous than most number 2s in the league.
While we're talking about old people.
All right, hang on. We got 3 more picks, probably 6 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Ben, you're on the clock with the Packers. No more Golden Girls.
All right, I'll make this one pretty quick. Packers lost some big pieces on defense, namely A.J. Hawk. They got to fill that role before I think they address anything else. So I have them with Eric Kendricks, linebacker.
Like it.
Yep.
All right. I mean, that was the one sore spot in the Green Bay defense. I mean, once Clay Matthews moved inside, that's how much they had to shuffle things around. He did show a little spark there for a little bit inside, but the linebacking core of the Packers was definitely an area of need. All right. Steve, the Saints from the Seahawks. I believe this was the Jimmy Graham trade where they acquired this pick.
Yes.
I believe I have it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jim.
Thank you. So I'm going to be the guy that takes the highest ranked person on the board. The Saints select wide receiver Devontae Parker.
He'll do it. That would be great if he lasted that long.
After losing Graham, I think that's a smart move.
Well, I honestly don't expect Devontae Parker to be there. I think that they'll end up drafting Max Williams with that pick to replace Jimmy Graham. But if this in fact happens, then you take the highest ranked person, and that's Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was surprised. I mean, do you expect Max Williams to drop that far? Knowing, how big of, he's probably, the number one tight end out there. I mean, you don't expect him to go sooner than that, or do you think Max Williams will fall to New Orleans?
I don't consider it Max falling. I think that's just really where he should go. That's sort of, in terms of ranking players, that's where he is with an overall draft grade.
He's a top of the second round player.
He's at the back end of the. Well, you could make that argument, but the reality is that the Saints, they're right at the end of the first round. It's the same thing.
Yeah. It's 6 and 1 and a half dozen in the other. All right, we are at the final pick of the evening. Ms. Mullins, wrap it up and take it home. The Patriots.
Okay, because like any of us know what the Patriots are going to do, but take a little stab in the dark. They haven't really hit on many wide receivers recently in the draft, and so that's what a big need is, and a guy who is available, elite speed, vertical weapon. Tom Brady cries. He's happy. Philip Dorsett, wide receiver from Miami.
That's a great pick.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting route, knowing they could possibly add a tight end there. I know a lot of the mock drafts I was looking at, it seemed like they were all kind of focusing on cornerbacks, but when it really does come down to it, I mean, sure, I think people overlook the fact that they were ninth in the league in terms of passing and yards per game, but when it comes down to it, it's the fact that adding that extra option out there and knowing that they've had such a dearth at a wide receiver is really not a bad idea, in knowing that there is depth and you can't find that guy available. So that's an awesome pick.
The Patriots receiving core, the highest rated wide receiver, Pro Football Focus, was Brandon LaFell at number 33. After him, Julian Edelman at 68.
Whoa.
So,
Whoa.
that is
apparently that's the Super Bowl formula. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that and Mr. Brady,
and the
That
Seahawks
doesn't hurt.
not to run it.
And I'm not positive either that the addition of Brandon Gibbs, from the Dolphins on that 1-year deal, it's not really, much of anything, to consider at this point. I mean, obviously Belichick's going to be able to work him into the offense, but that's not the big guy you're looking for. So
yeah,
good call, Connor.
So, Jameis Winston, Leonard Williams, Dante Fowler, Mari Cooper, Marcus Mariota, Bud Dupree, Danny Shelton, Melvin Gordon, Brandon Scherf, Kevin White, Andrews Pete, and then Todd Gurley to the Browns.
God.
I have to pause. Before I read that one. Vic Beasley to the Saints, Trey Waynes to the Dolphins, Malcolm Brown to the Niners, Jalen Strong to the Texans, Lyle Collins to the Chargers, Eric Flowers to the Chiefs. I'm not saying his name again to destroy it. To the Browns. Jake Fisher to the Eagles, Eric Armstead to the Bengals, Landon Collins to the Steelers. Jim, I got confused for a second there. Who did you pick to the Lions from Florida State?
Mario Edwards.
That's Mario Edwards. Okay, that's what I wrote down, but I thought I was confused. Marcus Peters, cornerback. T.J. Clemmings. This is how I work, kids. T.J. Clemmings to the Panthers. Shane Ray, Ravens. Kevin Johnson to the Cowboys. Eddie Goldman to the Broncos. Cameron Irving to the Colts. Eric Hendricks to the Packers. Devontae Parker to the Saints. Philip Dorsett to the Patriots. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the first round as we see it, for lack of a better term.
It's an adventure.
So let's really quick. We got about 90 seconds here, 60 seconds. How many trades do you think will happen in the first round? Just give me a number, really quick. Claire?
I think 2.
Oh, let's
3.
Go. Claire says 3. Ben?
1.
Steve?
2.
John?
2.
Jim?
2.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Titans pick gets traded, and I'm thinking the Rams do something.
I could see there's one other team I could see moving back if the opportunity was there.
I could see Cleveland trading one of their picks.
Cleveland would be like a nightmare scenario. The Browns trade both their first round picks to the Titans for the number 2 pick and Johnny Manziel, and they take Marcus Mariota to Cleveland.
I wouldn't be shocked. I know it's far fetched, but I wouldn't be shocked.
It's like, oh my God, blood starts coming out of your eyes.
Yeah. I'm more hoping the 7th pick in Jay Cutler to the Bears for Marcus Mariota. But
that's not going to happen.
That's a pipe dream.
But if that man,
I think that's a team that's going to be willing to trade down if possible. I think Chicago definitely stands a chance to move around if they feel that they can do something really with that 7th pick.
Yeah.
I think Chicago has to trade because they've only got 6 picks. But it won't be that first round pick. It'll be a later round pick.
Agreed. If Manziel gets traded, just shut off ESPN because First Take is going to be unbearable. So
they'll just have to put
Tebow's back.
You know who could also trade is the Rams. I think they could trade back.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, folks, thank you all for joining us. That was our annual mock draft. Thank you to Ben Franklin, Claire Mullins, John Maloris, Jim Sarantias, and my partner in crime, Steve Taylor. I'm Keith Grieve from 87sportsfans.com. We're here every Monday night, usually at 10 p.m. Eastern Time at latenightsportsradio.com. On Thursday night, join us for a live broadcast as we break down the first round as it happens live at latenightsportsradio.com and head out to the Cubby Bear in Chicago and see Jim and John. Have a good night, everybody.